Number 5. Timur the Conqueror. Timur the Conqueror was a 14th century conqueror and founder of the Timurid Empire. And according to the legend's inscriptions on his tomb, there was a warning of calamity for anyone who dares disturb his remains. And I would also just take this moment as a general rule of thumb, you shouldn't disturb anyone's tomb. Anyone at all. It doesn't matter if they were a famous conqueror or just like a milkman or something, you know? But definitely don't disturb famous conquerors who have ancient curses placed upon them. Mikhail Gerasimov was a Soviet scientist and wanted to dig up the conqueror, not for personal gain or to rob his tomb for loot, but rather to reconstruct his face, as he was a pioneer of paleoanthropology, which is a very fancy schmancy word for reconstructing the dead, making 3D models of their faces and stuff, so we have an idea of what historical figures look like. It's really cool tech. Now, it should be stated, several religious leaders in Uzbekistan warned him against digging up Timur. There was 2 consecutive warnings in the tomb itself. The first, plain sight, said, "When I rise from the dead, the world shall tremble." Now that probably should have been enough to discourage the trick, but if you keep pushing forward, the second inscription read, "Whomever opens my tomb shall unleash an invader more terrible than I." Well, who's gonna take that seriously? Well, 3 days after the excavation of Timur's tomb, a certain troublesome Austrian failed art student and a certain group of German National Socialists invaded Russia in Operation Barbarossa, which I think we could make a strong argument was a more terrible invader. In 1942, Timur's body was returned and buried with proper Islamic rites, and the Battle of Stalingrad in the same year marked a major turning point for Russia in the course of World War II. Coincidence perhaps? Or was this evidence of an ancient curse being reversed? I feel like that's gotta be one of the first times you hear of a curse getting undone. And if you're looking for way more videos about scary curses, well, you already know that Top 5 Scary has all of that and then some. And you better subscribe or I'm gonna curse you. No, don't worry. No curses at all, just a little joke. But do make sure you hit subscribe, ring that little bell so you don't miss any of our videos, but if you'd be so kind, do it at the end of this video, because I got 4 more cursed tombs coming up for you right now. Number 4, Casimir IV. Our next entry at number 4 on this list is a new one to me. I'd never even heard of this guy, so hopefully it's a new one for you as well. It's the tomb of King Casimir IV Jagiellon. King Casimir IV was one of Poland's most beloved heroes right after Geralt of Rivia. Under King Casimir's reign, according to Britannica, he subdued the Teutonic Knights and fought to keep a union between Poland and Lithuania while recovering lost lands taken from kings before. Pretty cool king stuff. His legacy is that of one of Poland's most notable leaders, and his grave has left quite a lasting impact on the country. After King Tut's grave was exhumed, around 40 years after, something very similar happened to a research crew in Poland at the tomb of Jagiellon. Because no one learns any lessons. Researchers were eager to dig up the king to learn about his death and dug right on in. Again, you gotta listen, you gotta learn. You saw the people digging up King Tut, did not work well for them. Things did not go well for the excavation team. Unearthing the king under Waffle Chapel was easy enough, but it's the examination that started to claim so many lives. As the examination was in progress, those involved started to die from strokes and infections. Within days, 4 were dead, and within years, around 15 of them were dead. Was it a fungus inside the coffin and tomb that had infected the researchers? Or perhaps were they playing with something up far above them and far more powerful than they ever could have understood? Again, I don't know how many more times I can beat this drum. If you have to dig up the grave of an ancient king or an ancient emperor or an ancient conqueror or anything, at the very least bring like a priest or something, or somebody to bless the place, somebody to do a little anti-curse work. You're setting yourself up for failure that way.
Number 3 on this list is Black Dolphin Prison. In the first part of this video, I brought up a prison in America that is filled with horrible criminals. We're talking about the worst of the worst when it comes to felons. Gang bosses who have been responsible for tons of death and violence, serial killers, armed robbers, and much more. Well, America isn't the only place with some really tough criminals and people who should never see the light of day again. How about Russia? Black Dolphin Prison is located in Russia and it is full of evil people. If you are one of the worst criminals in that country, then you're probably gonna earn yourself a one-way ticket to Black Dolphin Prison. Wikipedia says, inmates are kept isolated and housed in cells that have a set of 3 steel doors. For 90 minutes a day, they exercise in a large cage. During this time, cells are searched for contraband or illegal items. Inmates are also under 24-hour surveillance and supervision. They're not permitted to rest or sit on their bunks from the time they wake up until bedtime, which is roughly 16 hours. When prison officers make a command to the inmates, they must respond with the words, "Yes, sir." Every 15 minutes, a guard makes rounds to ensure Black Dolphin inmates are complying with the rules. The prisoners are fed soup 4 times a day and are only allowed books, newspapers, and a radio. Prison guards place blindfolds on arriving inmates so that they can't map out the prison or plan escapes. The inmates are also blindfolded whenever they're transported between buildings. Black Dolphin prison officers have a unique form of escorting inmates as well. Prisoners are kept bent over at the waist while a guard holds their handcuffed hands behind their back higher than their hips. This escort control tactic allows for maximum control while depriving the inmate of a view of his immediate surroundings. So yeah, guys, it really isn't any joke over there at Black Dolphin Prison. Everyone in here is serving life sentences, and rightfully so. These guys cannot be allowed in public ever again, so all doors at Black Door Prison, they need to stay locked. Number 2 on this list is Minnewanka Landing. Minnewanka Landing was an old sort of town landing spot that made its profit on the tourism that was around Minnewanka Lake. This lake is in Banff, Alberta, and it's a truly magnificent spot to visit. For a while, this tiny settlement was doing pretty well for itself, and it was starting to grow. But the good times wouldn't last as long as everyone would have wanted them to. Back in 1912, the lake completely flooded. You see, there was a dam that was holding a lot of water back that broke, and the lake just overflowed. The lake's water level rose a staggering 98 feet, which ultimately meant the entire landing at Minnewanka was completely underwater. Nowadays, there's this eerie ghost town that can only be visited with scuba gear under this lake. In the general store of this ghost town, there's a locked cellar. People have tried to get it open, but it seems to be sealed shut. Thinking realistically here, there most likely isn't anything too bad under there. Probably nothing. But that hasn't stopped the rumors from growing. People are convinced that something evil could be lurking down there. A ghost, or some type of demon spirit, or maybe there are some important secrets lying within that underwater cellar. Something that could totally be under there would be some dead bodies. If anyone got trapped in here when it was flooding, then probably not gonna do so hot. Nobody knows for sure, and I honestly think it should stay that way. This lake has already been through enough, so let's not push our luck here, guys. And number 1 on this list is Area 51. So this is an entry that I think a lot of you are familiar with. Area 51 is synonymous with aliens and other creepy beings that humans don't fully understand. Rumor has it that there are otherworldly creatures lurking within this base that the Americans have captured, or at the very least, there are weird human hybrids that the Americans have made themselves. Now, a lot of people want to know what's beyond these locked doors and see for themselves. There's definitely a part of me that wants to know as well, but ultimately, I think these need to remain locked. Here's my thinking. Area 51 has been around for decades. There has been tons of rumors of alien activity and a bunch of other stuff there, but let me ask you, have we been under a major alien attack in that time? Has any major city been bombarded with laser beams and other crazy stuff? No, they haven't, because the aliens are all trapped in Area 51. If we open these doors up, then out comes a bunch of alien creatures, and now we're under major attack. I'm sure that there are some really questionable things going on in that base, but sometimes ignorance is bliss, and I think that this might be one of those times.
Number 5, Keramikos. Coming up first is going to be a tomb from ancient Greece. Beautiful place, beautiful tombs. Keramikos is a beautiful neighborhood in Greece. It was the pottery center of Greece, if you can believe that, which would be interesting enough to print on a travel brochure, but it's also home to a cemetery that's existed since the Bronze Age, so that's some seriously old bones. Now, old old bones aren't necessarily scary, but in 2020, when archaeologists discovered 30 stone tablets buried beneath a well, each engraved with curses crying out for help from the gods of the underworld, now maybe that's a bit cursed. The Greeks would bury curses or requests, hoping the gods would hear them and grant them favor. Personally though, word to the wise, take it from Kratos or Zagreus, never make a deal with any of the gods of Olympus. It is simply just not worth it. Apparently, this sort of thing, that is, the practice of chucking cursed tablets into the graves of your dead, was not actually that uncommon in ancient Greece. Curses enshrined on tablets made from lead, wax, and stone were fairly common in Greece, where religion, magic, and science all kind of blended together into one beautiful blurred line as the answers to a lot of life's questions. Oftentimes, these cursed tablets were used to restrict rivals, place a curse on someone you didn't like much, or if you had a court case and you didn't want someone to speak up, you could always curse them out of testifying. I'm sure Saul Goodman would have loved that trick. Researchers believe that water was especially sacred to the ancient Greeks, and that this discovery of 30 tablets in the well suggests that perhaps this was a case of someone trying to curse a whole community. It was thought too that wells were a route to the underworld and guarded by nymphs. So the scatterings of vessels and mugs found around the cursed tablets were thought to be gifts and offerings to the nymphs. Usually I just go for like a $15 Starbucks card in scenarios like that, especially if I don't really know the nymph that well. And my friends, if you're looking for more scary content, you don't need to go anywhere, you're in the right place. Stay subscribed for hundreds upon hundreds of scary videos, crypts, tombs, ghosts, aliens, cryptids, and more, oh my.
Number 4, the Alexandria Black Tomb. I'm not sure if anybody else remembers this one, but I certainly do. I remember seeing it on the news. It certainly got my attention. Here we go. Back in July 2018, experts discovered a 2,000-year-old sealed black granite sarcophagus in Alexandria, Egypt. Now, initially, yes, this is exciting. This is amazing. This is the find of a lifetime. But it doesn't take long for speculation to then creep its way in. Do we open it? Do we not open it? What if it's something bad? What if it's a 2,000-year-old ancient virus? Do we do it? I don't know. We did it. Humans being as curious as we were, we just had to see what was inside. And inside, we did not find treasure. Rather, we found mummy juice. Just mummy juice. Inside were the remains of 3 Egyptian army officers accompanied by this reddish brown sewage liquid. It was disgusting. All the experts fled the scene. It smelled so bad. This is where that sarcophagus juice meme came from. This was the actual box. Mustafa Waziri, the Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities, he declared that the mummies had decomposed in the tomb for thousands of years and that it resembled a family burial. Yeah, family burial. How lovely is that? Nice discount on that one. There were bones of 3 people in a puddle of sarcophagus juice. That is disgusting. That is not Alexander the Great. Definitely not. The coffin was found in a tomb in the city believed to be the final resting place of Alexander the Great, so you kind of have to open it at that point, right? This could literally be him. Or it could be mummy juice from 305 BC. One or the other. Do we like this? Do we like opening up ancient curses? Did anything happen here? Waziri assured us immediately that he said that we've opened it and thank God the world has not fallen into darkness. Now remind you, this was a year before the plague arrived, so.
Number 3 on this list is the mausoleum of Emperor Qin Shi Huang. Qin Shi Huang is now known as the first emperor and died thousands of years ago. The second angle says his biggest ambition was to conquer all 6 warring states of ancient China. He put an end to feudalism and reunited the country under the Qin dynasty. In 1974, some farmers were digging a well near the old Chinese capital of Xinyang when they discovered a strange figure, a terracotta soldier. The excavation project that lasted for more than 4 decades revealed several thousand soldiers protecting the mausoleum of the emperor. According to researchers, there might be around 8,000 soldiers. So far, 2,000 have been excavated. Using high techniques such as remote sensing, ground-penetrating radar, and core sampling, the scientists have given shocking research. The emperor's tomb is much larger than it is believed, almost 38 square miles. However, the only guess so far is what Han Dynasty historian Sima Xin has written in his history records. According to Sima, the mausoleum contains palaces and towers along with treasures. Now, unlike some other entries on this list, this would definitely be a cool one to open, but it just never should be. Archaeologists who have looked at this before don't see any way to open it up without completely destroying everything inside. They obviously don't want to do that because there could be some incredible history in there, so we need to be patient. Basically, just wait until we get better technology and figure out a more efficient way of opening this thing up. Number 2 on this list is room 873. This room is located in Canada in one of the country's most haunted hotels. The second angle says, Banff Springs in Canada might be the best vacation to be at. The ambiance of the hotel is peaceful and unhurried, created with the view of Mount Rundle and Bow Valley. However, there is an unfolding mystery behind the majestic hotel. Many ghost stories have emerged over the years, such as the Sam Macaulay the Bellman, the Dancing Bride, and room 873. The hotel management acknowledges the truthfulness of these stories except the one mysterious room 873. No guest is allowed into the room, including the staff of the hotel, and how could one enter when there is no door? Yep, you heard me right, guys. There is no door. Room 873 on the 8th floor is mysteriously missing. There's no door to room 873, but instead a long stretched wall at the spot where the door was supposed to be. However, when you knock on the wall, it's hollow, which confirms a room behind the plastered wall is in fact present. Legend has it that in 1928, a shocking incident occurred. A married couple and their daughter checked in, but none of them was alive to check out of the hotel. During the evening, the father murdered his wife and daughter before killing himself. From that day onwards, guests who booked the room 873 were found complaining about screams and bloody handprints of the girl on the mirror. As a result, the room was sealed. This hotel is on the list of the most haunted hotels ever. Ghost hunters have been to this place and have confirmed that there is in fact some wicked ghostly stuff going on. At this point, there are spirits circulating around the whole place, but the hot spot is definitely inside room 873. I mean, how often do you hear about a hotel bricking up one of their rooms? From a business standpoint, it just doesn't make any monetary sense, because how can you make money off of that room if it's bricked up? So that should just further enforce the fact that this room is beyond saving and is way too haunted to enter. Number 1 on this list is ADX Florence. ADX Florence is quite possibly the most dangerous prison in the world. What I mean by that is that it houses the most dangerous criminals that the world has ever seen. How Stuff Works says, among nearly 400 male inmates at ADX are several infamous characters. El Chapo, the notorious drug kingpin, was sent to ADX after escaping twice from maximum security prisons in Mexico. The Unabomber is in there. So is Eric Rudolph, the Atlantic Olympics bomber, the Oklahoma City bomber Terry Nichols, the 1993 World Trade Center terrorist Ramzi Youssef, and Michael Swango, a doctor who poisoned and killed up to 60 of his patients. Prisoners don't end up in the ADX by accident. Many have committed murder either on the outside or in other prisons, including killing guards. Others are hardcore gang members who have ordered or carried out prison hits. So what door am I referring to here? Well, basically all of them. If there is a locked door in this prison, then it needs to stay locked, because my dudes who are chilling behind said locked doors, they do not need to be getting back into the public anytime soon. These criminals are the worst of the worst, and having them roam free really wouldn't be good for anyone. Number 5 on this list is the Great Sphinx of Giza, one of the coolest things humans ever constructed. You may think that we know everything there is to know about this sculpture, but that just isn't the case. The second angle says, the Great Sphinx of Giza, a mythical creature with the body of a lion and head of a human, was built 4,500 years ago. It took 100 workers and 3 years to complete it. The mystery of the Sphinx is that there lie 2 rectangular chambers at the depth of 25 feet. These chambers were discovered by seismographs and are located under the Sphinx paws. The researchers are of the view that there are 2 entrances to these chambers, but they're sealed. Government officials have restricted further research, and hence what lies behind the doors remains a mystery. However, some theories believe that the door to the chamber will lead us to the Hall of Records that contain document scrolls in which the Egyptians had managed to record the history of the missing continent of Atlantis. Now, for one, if there is the history of Atlantis inside the Sphinx, then that is wicked cool, and frankly, I wish that we could learn about it. But some people think that the government is holding a few things back. We've talked a decent amount on this channel before about the pyramids, and when they first initially opened the pyramids and went inside, a curse swept through the people who entered, and a lot of those individuals died in tragic and unexpected ways. From what I've read, people are pretty scared of the same thing going down with the Sphinx. We open it up and maybe we find out some really cool stuff about the ancient Egyptians, but also we may unleash some sort of curse on everyone who tries to learn about this. So we're stuck in this weird catch-22 place where it just doesn't make sense. The Great Sphinx of Giza is one of the biggest mysteries in the world, and the secrets that it holds might change lives. It just also might cost lives at the exact same time. Number 4 on this list is the Padmanabhaswamy Temple. Not only is this a really hard thing to say, but it's also super dangerous to go inside. The second angle says, India has yet another mysterious door that has not been opened since the 16th century. The Temple of Sri Padmanabhaswamy is in Trivandrum. The temple is a holy shrine to Mahavishnu and was built in the 16th century, and later the kings of Travancore, known for their wealth, renovated it. The temple has 6 vaults, A to F, and had been never opened until 2011 when 5 out of the 6 vaults were opened. Treasures including gold, jewel, coins, and idols were discovered from these vaults. The estimated value of wealth was $1 trillion. That is a pretty big number to grasp. Well, you might be wondering, what about the 6th vault? The B vault remains closed even today, with 2 cobras decorated on the gate with no latch, revealing that the vault is guarded by the cobras. The legend has it that in the 1930s, some temple invaders tried to get into the vault, but could not succeed because of the terrible cobras that came out of nowhere. Also, there is a belief that the door is protected by a fatal curse and can only be opened by Sadhu, who has the knowledge of Garuda mantra. Think about it, guys. There could literally be millions, billions, trillions of dollars worth of stuff inside this vault, and it still isn't worth it for us to open it. That's how you know that something is dangerous. For all we know, there is some giant and deadly snake that's living and lurking inside there like the basilisk from Harry Potter. There could be a huge monster inside of this temple just waiting to come out. Millions of dollars doesn't mean anything to anyone if you're dead.
Number 3, Taira no Masakado. We're headed out to Japan for our next entry on this list. The number 3 entry is going to be the grave of Taira no Masakado, whom is attributed as being Japan's first samurai. Tom Cruise being the last samurai, of course, and the identity of all the samurais in between that, totally unknown, lost to history. Now, the story of Taira no Masakado is absolutely fascinating, especially if you love Japanese history. He was a samurai who rebelled against the central government in 10th century Japan. He claimed the title of new emperor and led a revolt in the Kanto region. Masakado's rebellion was eventually suppressed and he did fall in battle, but his legend grew over time and he became revered as a folk hero and a symbol of resistance. Masakado's story embodies the struggle against oppressive rule and the enduring spirit of the Japanese people. And enduring spirit, that might have a few more meanings. When the Ministry of Finance burned down during an earthquake in 1923, the at the time superstitious Japanese emperor blamed Masakado, who had been dead for 1,000 years at this point, so probably not directly involved, but a ghostly curse maybe. The grave superstition actually extended outside of Japan. When the US was occupying Japan in 1945, they refused to go anywhere near Masakado's final resting place. A bank was erected where the shrine was, and a few years after it was built, the branch declared bankruptcy, funny enough. In a last-ditch attempt to save their bank and appease the spirit, they opened an account for Masakado. It didn't help much, and probably just offended him more when he saw that his bank account was empty. These days, there's a small garden dedicated to Masakado's memory where you're invited to come pay homage and respect to Japan's first samurai, but if I was you, I would avoid building anything there at all. Maybe just take a few pictures, sit on a bench, and say something nice to him. Number 2, Shakespeare's grave. Who is the most famous writer of all time? You could probably make a very strong case that it's William Shakespeare, the beloved playwright and nemesis of high schoolers. All his characters are household names, and his plays have been played over and over and over and over around the world. There's probably much ado about nothing happening in a park near your house right now. You probably wouldn't think of an esteemed playwright from the 16th century in England to be someone you would hear about on a list of cursed tombs. But would you believe that Shakespeare's grave is said to be cursed? I hope you believe it, because it's true. Now, Shakespeare's own name isn't on the tomb. Shakespeare's own name isn't on the tomb, according to Reuters, but the inscription on his grave definitely bears mentioning. Good friend, for Jesus' sake forbear to dig the dust enclosed here. Blessed be the man that spares these stones, and cursed be he that moves my bones. Thank you, thank you. I did Statford for a few years. Yeah, thank you. It's no big deal. It's no big deal, guys. The warning worked. Buildings constructing repairs in 2008 went out of their way to avoid the gravesite at all, but not everyone would heed the bard's curse. According to an archaeologist, Kevin Calls, there is reason to believe that at some point in time, unknown, for unknown reasons, somebody dug up Shakespeare and took his skull. Alas, poor Shakespeare. I knew him well. That was from Hamlet. That's one of the plays that he wrote. There's been a lot of debate and wonder even why Shakespeare's name isn't inscripted on the grave. He's the only grave in the plot without a name, and he's a particularly famous grave. There are some who suspect that Shakespeare himself wrote the epitaph, which is pretty funny and in line with him, I think. But I don't know if that's entirely true, mostly because the epitaph was very, very easy to understand, and I didn't need to translate it on the bottom of the page like most of Shakespeare's work. Bite share Arim, Israel. You know, I joke around the office that it can be pretty tricky writing top 5 scary videos sometimes because of all the channels that we have. There's not a lot of new developments in the world of scary, you know? There's not a lot of new ancient folklore, there's not a lot of new haunted places, and there's not a lot of new cursed tombs being made. Well, they're not being made, they should be, but they are being discovered. I guess they could still get made too, there's still time. A recently uncovered tomb was discovered within a recently unearthed cave in an ancient cemetery in Beit Sharim, Israel. Would you believe this is the first tomb that has been found there in 65 years? Now, the archaeologists termed the tomb significant because it was the first time ever that a tomb has identified a dead person as converting to Judaism. The tomb had a strange message scrawled in ominous red writing reading, Yakov Hagar vows to curse anybody who would open this grave, so nobody will open it. 60 years old. Yakov Hagar translates to Jacob the proselyte, which means a convert to Judaism. No one knows exactly who wrote this inscription. An archaeologist from the University of Haifa said the message was inscribed to ensure the resting place of the dead remained undisturbed. It was to prevent others from opening the tomb at a later point, which happened quite often. Reusing tombs through time, said Adi Ulrich, the archaeologist. Totally can sympathize with that. When I was younger, I had to share my room with my siblings, had to share a bunk bed. I wouldn't want to share a tomb. I'd want a tomb all to myself. Ulrich also said that the inscription is from the late Roman or early Byzantine period, a time when Christianity was strengthened. And here we find evidence that there were still people who chose willingly to join the Jewish people. That's an interesting thing to find on a tombstone. And currently, as of this writing, it has yet to curse anyone too much, but also they didn't disturb it too much. So let's just hope they keep some of those stones where they are and they can keep those curses underground. Number 5, the Great Sphinx. The Sphinx, a majestic and enigmatic structure located on the Giza plateau in Egypt, has captivated the imagination of historians, archaeologists, and explorers for centuries. This massive lion-bodied monument with a human face is definitely interesting looking. Kind of makes you think that maybe the Egyptians didn't quite know what lions look like. But that's not what we're talking about today. It's the mystery inside it surrounding these potential secret chambers within that we want to know about. Although there's no official evidence to support or confirm that there's hidden chambers inside the Sphinx, first of all, yeah, we all know there are. But second, numerous theories and speculations have arisen over the years. Some believe that there are concealed passageways or chambers beneath the monument just waiting to be discovered. These theories are rooted in ancient Egyptian beliefs and legends that suggest the Sphinx guards hidden treasures or secret knowledge. I know it certainly knows a thing or two about riddles, so secret knowledge is not out of the question. A popular hypothesis is that the Sphinx conceals a secret entrance leading to the legendary Hall of Records, a vast library containing ancient texts and very valuable artifacts. This theory was first brought forth by the clairvoyant Edgar Cayce in the early 20th century. According to Cayce, the Hall of Records holds the key to humanity's forgotten history and advanced knowledge that could revolutionize our understanding of the past. It's a bunch of Polaroid photos of aliens building the pyramids, I think, that's been kept under lock and key. Now, others propose that the Sphinx's tunnels may lead to unexplored areas beneath the Giza plateau. Some claim that these hidden spaces could contain burial chambers, sacred artifacts, or even the tombs of long-lost pharaohs. Now, despite all of these theories. Extensive studies and archaeological investigations have not quite yet found concrete evidence of hidden chambers within the Sphinx. We're getting there, I'm pretty sure. Modern scientific techniques such as ground-penetrating radar and scanners have been employed to explore the monument structure, but as of now, no conclusive findings have emerged. And you know what? That's probably a good thing, to be honest. You read about King Tut, knowing how many curses are inside ancient Egyptian buildings, maybe let's just leave that one alone. And if you're looking for more stories of terrifying portways, freaky windows, we might have some of that. We've got more actual topics about things like aliens, cryptids, sharks, ghosts, ghouls, whatever freaks you out, we've got a video or two on that. So click on through, hit subscribe, please make sure to hit that little bell to make sure you get every single video, but you do that at the end of this one, okay? Because I got 4 more scary doors just waiting for you to open them. Number 4, the Terracotta Army. Do you ever think in human history just how many stories have simply been lost to time? How many common men who lived simple lives we may never remember? Well, Qin Shi Huang clearly was worried about this because he insisted that he have a grave that would ensure he would be remembered by history. His tomb was basically history's most impressive flex. When farmers from the Shaanxi province in 1974 discovered Qin Shi Huang's tomb, they couldn't believe what they'd uncovered. Hundreds upon hundreds of terracotta soldiers, complete with horses, chariots, officers, infantry, and a bear. Oh my, no bear. That was a joke, but the rest was real. 2,000 terracotta soldiers protecting their former emperor. What's even more bombastic is that we're not even sure if this is all the soldiers, since the tomb hasn't been fully uncovered. These 1,000 terracotta soldiers might just be the first wave of guys coming on in. Qin Shi Huang wanted to make sure his tomb was an approximation of his legacy. Uniting 6 warring states and ending feudalism needed a pretty good bookmark. He himself is buried beneath an enormous pyramid-shaped mound that stands a good distance from the excavated portion of the tomb. Historians suspect that the internal tomb contains treasures and wondrous objects that Qin Shi Huang collected during his life, untold priceless relics and treasures hidden away. Although, perhaps as a bit of a deterrent, there is also a flowing river of pure mercury. Doesn't sound like a super great idea, but you have to remember that back then, kind of paradoxically, they associated mercury with immortality instead of associating with poisoning. Soil around the tomb has been shown to have elevated levels of mercury, so they're not joking about that one. Now, no one's too eager to actually check anytime soon because this uncharted territory has a series of protections to keep out any tomb raiders. Nathan Drake and Lara Croft would need a lot more than quick reflexes here, as the tomb is said to be protected by ballistas and ancient booby trap mechanisms. Also, I'm just gonna say, 1,000-year-old mercury vapor, that cannot possibly be good for your respiratory systems, so perhaps it's best to leave this one sealed and let 2,000 sleeping soldiers lie. Number 3, Qin Shi Huang. The tomb of former emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, is notable for many reasons. Maybe it was because in 1974, when farmers from the Shaanxi province were digging a well, they discovered hundreds upon hundreds of terracotta soldiers, complete with horses, chariots, officers, infantry, and a whole court. They discovered one of the world's greatest archaeological wonders. 2,000 terracotta soldiers. Qin Shi Huang's tomb. The tomb was built like this basically to serve as history's most impressive flex. Qin Shi Huang wanted to make it good and clear that even in death, he held more might and imperial power than anyone could ever imagine. And he wanted his own army to take with him in the afterlife. They say you can't take it with you, but he did. What's wild is we don't even know how far this tomb goes, since it still hasn't been fully uncovered. Those thousands of terracotta soldiers, those might just have been the first wave of guys coming out the door. While he reigned, Qin Shi Huang wanted to make sure his tomb was a very good approximation of his own legacy. So, naturally, thousands of laborers worked tirelessly for decades to create a tomb worthy of China's emperor. It's estimated that 700,000 laborers are thought to have worked on the tomb, which took nearly 40 years to build. Qin Shi Huang only even lived to be 49, so good thing they finished that in time, eh? Qin Shi Huang himself is thought to be buried beneath an enormous pyramid-shaped mound that stands a good distance from the excavated portion of the tomb. Now, according to historians, the central tomb contains treasures and wondrous objects collected during his life, included a flowing river of pure mercury, which ironically back then they associated that with immortality. Now I think we associate that with poisoning. Soil testing the nearby areas has revealed elevated levels of mercury in the dirt, so this might actually be true. However, no one is just too eager to go digging or check, since it sounds like Qin Shi Huang kitted this place out like a video game dungeon to keep any would-be Nathan Drakes or Lara Crofts from raiding this uncharted tomb. The tomb is said to be protected by ancient ballistas and complex mechanisms that will fire arrows at any potential grave robbers and make Indiana Jones blush. And that mercury vapor probably is not doing anybody any favors either. In any case, the Chinese government has been in no rush to explore what's down there. It's best to let the sleeping dead lie, especially when he has got thousands of terracotta bodyguards who, I don't know, maybe they're cursed, maybe they'll come to life. I just wouldn't mess with it.
Number 2. King Tut's artifacts. The new Grand Egyptian Museum was finally opened to the public in 2021 after many delays. And while that's quite recent, the contents displayed inside, they certainly are not. For the first time in history, many of King Tut's ancient belongings will be on display. Now, prior to this museum being opened, we only saw about 150 artifacts from his tomb. They all went on tour, like Kiss, they just went on tour. But now this museum, in a beautiful space that spans over 7,000 square meters. That's awesome. Now, cut back to the initial discovery, not so great. November 4th, 1922, ancient history was unearthed. A team of researchers led by British archaeologist Howard Carter discovered this entrance, the literal entrance to King Tut's tomb. Now, only 3 weeks later, King Tut's actual tomb was then unearthed. Now, hasn't been disturbed in over 3,000 years, and then we came in with some shovels and made him an exhibit. Awesome, grab your tickets. Hashtag Tut. This discovery spawned the curse of the pharaohs. Why, of course, because almost every expert involved in that discovery, they all experienced horrible luck. Many of them actually just died. Tragic events. It was crazy. Howard Carter, the archaeologist who discovered the actual tomb, he gave a paperweight to his friend Bruce Ingham as a gift. Now, that paperweight in hand, pun intended, was a mummified hand wearing a bracelet. Inscribed on said bracelet read the phrase, "Cursed be he who moves my body." Ingham's house then burned to the ground not long after receiving said gift, and then when he tried to rebuild the home, it was then destroyed in a flood. That's just one example. Some people, like I said, straight up died. Car accidents, just random medical issues, sicknesses, like I said about plagues and Egyptian mummies, breathing in some old shit. It's not great. Lots of dark history being unearthed. That's all King Tut.
And finally, number 1, the Björktorp runestone. Vikings regularly used runes in their runic magic. What else would you use for runic magic? Vikings would inscribe the stones, and they could wield the magical power of words, the thum, if you will. This magic could take all forms, blessings, curses, and I'm sure in at least one case, probably a pretty sick fireball. The Björktorp runestone, and I know for a fact I am not pronouncing that correctly, so please feel free to let me know in the comments how it should be going, is a famous example of a runestone and some runic magic. Located in Blekinge, Sweden, the rock itself is surrounded by mystery, and the inscription on it carries a pretty scary warning. I, master of the runes, conceal here runes of power. Incessantly plagued by maleficence, doomed to insidious death is he who breaks this monument. I prophesize the destruction. Okay, so that honestly sounds pretty clear cut and dry what is happening with this runestone. It sounds like this stone guarantees a nice rainfall every year. No, of course not. It's a very scary warning. No one really knows what the Björktorp runestone represents though, or even if it's buried on top of something significant. Is it a tomb? No one's really willing to mess with it to find out. Kratos hasn't come by to ravage this place for upgrade materials yet. Is that too many God of War Ragnarok references in one video? No, of course not. If I had my way, it'd be Ragnarok all the way down. Anyway, back on topic. Anthropologists and archaeologists have done their level best to ascertain just what's going on here without tripping any possible runic curses, just to be safe. A tomb is one of the most popular theories, but there are others, suggesting that possibly it's a memorial for a real burial far, far away, possibly to mislead somebody, grave robbers maybe. A second suggestion is that it is a mighty shrine for Odin, offering him runes of power in exchange for blessings of fertility and harvest. A third, significantly less popular theory offered by some researchers is that it was put in place to somehow control the mystical powers of Icelandic singer-songwriter and my personal hero Björk, who has been known to be completely uncontrollable.
Number 5 on this list is the Taj Mahal. The Taj Mahal is one of the most beautiful buildings to ever be constructed. Thousands of tourists flock here every year to marvel at its architecture. I mean, it ought to be beautiful considering it took 22 years to make and 32 million rupees to finance. There is a large area where tourists are allowed to go, but underneath all of that, there's an area where no one's allowed to go, and that's actually a lot bigger. Hamari Webb says below the areas where tourists often visit, there's an entire story with entrances sealed behind marble arches. It's believed that there are 1,089 rooms rooms in this hidden level. There's another floor hiding approximately 22 rooms hidden behind Hindu paintwork. Even on the open first floor, there are numerous mysterious locked doors that no one is able to unseal. What is hidden in these sealed areas? There are several theories. The prevailing belief is that these areas were built hastily and do not boast the same grandeur as the rest of the monuments, so Shah Jahan wanted to keep anyone from seeing them. However, not everyone believes that this is the true secret of the mysterious locked doors. According to one theory, the sealed areas of the Taj Mahal are actually hiding the woman the monument immortalizes, Mumtaz Mahal. This theory purports that Shah Jahan secretly had his favorite wife mummified so that he could keep her close to him even in death. This would have been a serious violation of the Islamic commandments, and he would have been declared a heretic had the transgression been discovered. Some also believe that Mumtaz Mahal remains in the hidden rooms in more than just body, that her spirit haunts the rooms as well. Although the Shah built this epic monument in her honor, not everyone believes that this adored spouse was as happy in life as history would have us believe. Her husband, after all, had a harem numbering in the thousands, and he and his armies were known for their sexual violence. Considering all of this, it seems best that we don't mess with whatever is truly down there. Unleashing an ancient curse upon the world seems like a horrible idea, and if we can avoid doing that, then I think we definitely should. Number 4 on this list is Pluto's Gate. Pluto's Gate should never be opened and never be traveled through because not only is it incredibly deadly on its own, but you might also end up in hell if you go far enough in. Atlas Obscura says an archaeological dig revealed the remains of an ancient temple situated on a thermal spring, long believed to have been a gateway to hell. This well-documented temple of Pluto disappeared from records sometime around the 6th century. Amongst the distinguishing features of this particular gate are the toxic fumes which waft out from tunnels beneath. In times of antiquity, these were often inhaled by the priests of Pluto, promptly sending them into hallucinogenic trance states. Writing at some time around the year 0 AD, the Greek philosopher Strabo claimed that any animal that passes inside meets instant death. Even now, the poisonous vapors claim the lives of birds that fly or nest too close to the ruins. So I think that based on that, it's pretty clear why this should never be open and why we should never go into it. At the very least, you're going to go into a hallucinogenic trance by entering into here, which probably isn't going to result in the best decision making. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is you get close to death from the poison and then stumble into hell where the devil or some demon finishes you off. Let's lock this thing off and stay away, shall we?
Number 3. Padmanabhaswamy Temple. India's probably got a few secret doors or two. Keep that in mind. There might even be another secret door from India on this list. Maybe 3 or 4. Possibly more, considering how many secrets the temple of Sri Padmanabhaswamy is hiding. Located in Trivandrum, the temple is a holy shrine to Mahavishnu and was built in the 16th century. The kings of Travancore, which sounds like it would be like a really good deathcore group that you'd see for a few days, but is actually an Indian royal dynasty, renovated the place, making it the grand display of opulence that it is today. Now, the temple's not just a beautiful tourist hotspot to catch a couple Instagram photos, it's also home to 6 mysterious vaults, which is pretty interesting. 6 secret vaults. Wow. Now, these remained shut until in late 2011 when finally they were unsealed. The first 5 vaults contained immeasurable wealth. Gold, jewels, coins, idols, V-Bucks, Black Knight and the Reaper skins in there, you name it, it was there. The estimated value of everything inside there was equivalent to $1 trillion US. Now, if you can remember all the way back to 15 seconds ago, I mentioned that there was 6 vaults and only the first 5 have been opened so far. So what was in that last vault? Well, that's the trouble. Since we have no idea and probably won't anytime soon. The final vault remains closed, with 2 cobras decorating the gate with no latch to be found. Now, legend has it that in the 1930s, invaders tried to plunder the vault only to be met with a hostile end courtesy of some cobras who came from nowhere, as if they were a mystical force rather than angry snakes. Now, there are some who say the vault is protected by an ancient fatal curse, and of course, there are some too who say that the entire story of the curse is blown out of misunderstanding landings and overblown sensationalism, and in actuality, the vault isn't sealing anything particularly important, and it's just some government red tape explaining why it hasn't been audited and opened up yet. But where's the fun in that? It's probably got like an ancient curse or some snake gods or something. Number 2, Banff Springs. Our next mysterious portway is a Canadian classic. Reason bills have passed in Canada that means 1 out of every 5 points in a top 5 scary video has to be CanCon. It was not easy finding a haunted door in Canada. I had to walk door to door trying them all until I found one. I went all the way to Alberta, but I found one and it's in Banff Springs. If you've ever been up in Alberta, then maybe you already have heard of Banff Springs before. It's pretty famous. It's regarded as one of the nicest vacation spots in the whole country. It's a little Canada fact for you. Yet there's a darker truth behind it. There's a number of haunted stories and fables of strange activity happening at this serene hotel. I've actually covered a few of the spookier ones on the channel before. Things like the mysteries, the Macaulay waitress ghost, the dancing bride ghost. Now the Banff is willing to come clean about those ghost stories and even encourages people to go look as they offer ghost hunting tours. But room 873 is one secret that they are trying to keep the door shut on. No one has access to room 873. Visitors, guests, hotel staff, the Pope, Nicolas Cage, no one has access to room 873 at the Banff Springs. Well, why can no one get the door open? Did we all just lose the key? Well, this one's kind of a cheat to include on this list because it's more the absence of a door than it is a scary door. You see, the door disappeared. Room 873 was on the 8th floor, and cryptically the door disappeared, like just vanished, blipped away. There was a huge wall in the middle of nowhere. If you knock on the wall now, you can feel the existence of the room, you can hear it, you know it's there, you just can't get inside it. It's narrated that in 1928, there was a heinous incident in which a father took his own life after taking the life of his wife and daughter, all in room 873. Guests would report hearing the screams of the victim's last moments, which led to the hotel borrowing the room. So what really happened? Will we ever know? You're more than welcome to check into the Banff Springs, but just be aware, you might not be able to leave. No, you'll be able to check out at your regular checkout time. They wouldn't function as a hotel like that if they were keeping guests forever. Number 1, the Taj Mahal. The Taj Mahal is one of the most iconic architectural wonders in the world. Somehow, it's not one of the 7 wonders of the world, despite being wondrous. Well, amidst the wonder and grandeur behind the mausoleum, there's a part of this beautiful building you will not find on the guest tour. There exists a mysterious door that's puzzled historians and visitors alike. It sits away in a hidden corner, away from prying eyes and YouTube hosts. What lies beyond it? Well, we don't really know. We don't really know much about that at all. Otherwise, it wouldn't be on this video. This video is not top 5 doors that we know everything that's happening behind. It's scary doors that we should never open. The legends say that the emperor who commissioned the Taj Mahal, Emperor Shah Jahan, designed the door to safeguard a treasure, or perhaps even a profound secret. Some people speculate that it conceals more priceless historical artifacts or ancient scriptures like the temple in Point 3. Some of the more compelling conspiracy theories speculate that behind the door could be something wondrous, a gateway to a parallel dimension, a passage to an underground chamber leading to a forgotten civilization, proof of extraterrestrials, the usual grab bag of ancient wild conspiracies revolving an old building. Now, attempts to crack the vault haven't been particularly fruitful. Its mechanisms remain a puzzle to be solved. Carvings, symbols, inscriptions all lost their meaning to time and aren't helping much. My advice, no one's tried the Gandalf approach, just speak friend and enter. That might crack the door open. Has a good chance of working. Whether this mysterious door holds a treasure, sacred knowledge, or hey, maybe it's protecting something evil from getting into our world, it adds another layer of mystique to the timeless beauty of the Taj Mahal and gives us something to poke around next time we're there on a visit. Reminds us that even amongst the splendor, there are still countless hidden secrets just waiting to be unlocked and mysteries to be solved.